Hi, I'm Drew.
And I'm Sam.
And welcome to Drewling Samantics.
Boo! Beer
Hello,
today,
mate.
gone tomorrow.
Just say that again. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I just thought it'd be funny. Beer today, gone tomorrow.
Are we sunk to that level? Are we absolutely just? Is that all you've got to say to introduce yourself?
I mean, I think probably by this stage I don't need to introduce myself per se. I just thought I thought it was funny. All right.
It is funny, mate. Honestly, I mean, a remark such as that suits you to a T, mate.
Oh. If you're still tuning in, and fuck knows why you might be. Hello, welcome to Drewling Samantics. These two mental idiots that seem to be going completely doolally are here to try and entertain. Try, fail miserably.
I mean,
yeah. But
if this is the level we're working at, my friend, then it's a good job we've got a guest on this week.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true. Doesn't matter that we're useless because someone's about to come and join us and pick up the level and bring it back to
raise the level a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, anyway, are you all right, mate? Sorry, I haven't really asked, but how's it going?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Yeah. It's a busy week. Bits and bobs popping up there. Got a little weekend show. So yes, but very good, thank you. Yes, nice. You see me in good spirits.
Good. And as you can probably tell, I'm in good spirits because I'm coming out with awful dad jokes and one-liners that are just unacceptable.
Punning from Dunning. That's what we're getting.
Oh, punning from Dunning. And may I say, I always look stunning. Anyway, no,
you can say it if you like. Yeah.
There's almost a little bit of me that goes, we should probably re-record this intro. This is awful. But no, people don't care. They don't care. They're just here to listen to what our guest has got to say in a minute.
Exactly.
But it doesn't matter, mate. If we keep going like this, I'm sure that our careers will be behind us.
Oh, I see what you did there. I like that.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah. And that to everyone else, that's just like isn't that just as bad as everything else you've been doing? But no, there is a reason.
Oh no, it isn't.
This is just absolute.
Are these heavy enough spoilers? Do you think? Are these heavy enough clues that we're dropping here?
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. I'll tell you what. Let's get rid of this before the final person still listening does give up. Ladies and gents, we have an amazing guest for you this week, and he is here, and so we shall bring him straight in. Creator of Pantomime Magazine, please meet the wonderful Mr. Simon Lucas. And there he is. Welcome to Drewling Samantics, Mr. Simon Lucas. How are you, sir?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you two guys?
Yeah, good, thank you, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us. Really grateful. We know how busy you are. Now, we have literally just met, although I have read many of your words of late. For me and all our listeners, subscribers, watchers, etc., would you give us a little introduction? Who is Mr. Simon Lucas and what does he do?
Oh, how long have we got? What day is it?
Go for it.
Right, well, I'll see. Simon. Yeah, I run a little independent publisher called Beer Cop Books. We sort of publish children's books, theatre book related books, and plays and pantos for performance as well. But obviously, we also now publish Pantomime Magazine, which is purely anything and everything to do with pantomime, be it multi-million-pound Palladium, right down to the lady that makes the tea at the Village Hall production. I mean, I've been involved with theatre myself now for best part of 50 years. I know I don't look it, but it's a wonder what Nivea does. But yeah, so
Drew, you taking note here, mate? This is how
I'm going to be asking for beauty tips afterwards. We're going to have a long talk afterwards, Simon.
Yeah, well, it's all that old makeup, the grease paint stuff. Yeah, but no. So I started panto when I was 6, and I've been involved either amateur or professional sort of ever since then, really, sort of as performer, dancing, singing, and a bit of acting, through designing, choreographing, directing. So had a go at most things over the years. So yeah, it's been great fun, and that sort of led to the magazine ultimately. So which is great fun if hard work.
But yeah, so I guess it has given you a good stead because, as you say, you have been part of literally every single avenue that is within the world of pantomime, and now taking it on to a level where not only are you kind of writing about it, but speaking to a lot of other people who are also immersed in that world. So was it a long time decision? Had you wanted to do the magazine for a long time, or is this something that someone else just sort of floated and you kind of went, oh, actually, perfect, I can combine my two main areas in one?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, Pantomime Magazine itself was literally a spur of the moment decision. I mean, we'd been looking at the publishing side of the business because if you do a new book, there's a big push when it first comes out. You spend 12 months working on it. There's a lot of sales to start with, and then unless you're really, really lucky, sales peter off and it just trickles. And obviously the financial graph is not very good. So unless you've got a lot of new books coming out all the time, which is very expensive to do, there's a financial peaks and troughs. So we thought about a magazine, and my wife was into crafting, but there's millions of craft magazines, and I like theatre. And I thought, well, there's not actually that many theatre dedicated magazines. I know there's some new ones come out like musicals and that. And for the amateurs, you've got Sardines and Node have the magazine. But I thought there's nothing actually dedicated to panto. And, you know, I love panto, as an awful lot of people do. Not everybody does, which is surprising to hear, but
it is Marmite, isn't it?
Yeah. I just thought, you know, why not? Because I know, and I know you guys know, panto isn't just for Christmas, which is one of the articles we did early on as well. And it was really to celebrate the whole genre and everything that's involved with it, and just introduce people to what actually goes on the rest of the year, so that the professionals can. I think the professionals can still learn from amateurs, and the amateurs can certainly learn from the professionals. And the fact that they're actually doing the same thing, the only difference is the professionals are chucking millions of pounds at it, and the amateurs are chucking a few £100 at it or a few thousand. And slightly controversially, I think some of the amateurs really do a better job than some of the professionals, which I know I'll probably get shot for, but there we go.
I think there is something that, because there is still the love. You're not just box ticking. Right? I mean, I know some of the commercial pantos, because of, you said it yourself, a lot of money goes into some of those really big pantos from some of the really big producers. I mean, I've worked for a couple of big ones, and I've worked for some very small ones. But the amateur pantos still keep that love alive. They don't have to say, well, we paid X, you know, tens of thousands for our leading lady, man, whatever. We've got to get bums on seats. You know, you can actually put the enjoyment on stage without necessarily having to put the money on stage with an amateur production. Although I've seen some amateur productions that have the curtain opens, you go, by God, that's lavish. That's looking great, you know. And then they come on and storm it. So
oh yeah,
you're right,
absolutely. I mean, there are some amateur companies, you know, don't get me wrong, they do spend tens of thousands of pounds, and it does show. There's no two ways about it. But you know, I went to see several last year that were just literally a couple of people got together, got some friends, literally no money, in a church. The one was, and I laughed more in that, I think, than some of the ones that, you know, where I paid £30 a seat to go and see. And it is, I think, it's that whole family atmosphere. I mean, I know you two both do panto, and I don't want to upset anybody, but at the end of the day, you know, you're there doing a job. You know, I've done it. It's still fun. You still have a laugh, but you're there to do a job. Very intense, 2-3 shows a day. Whereas the amateur, you're still doing it because you want to be there, and you're not trying to pay the bills. I know that sounds terrible, but
not
it's the reality at the end of the day.
It is the reality.
It's absolutely right. And when there is nothing motivating you other than the passion to do it, you are going to give more to it. And it sounds counterintuitive. And at the end of the day, yes, Drew and I are professionals. We get paid to do pantomime, but we adore it as well. And there are many other things we could be doing. But I totally agree that I think on an amateur level, you're talking about some people who've done a full day's work and then will go off and do a rehearsal or will fit in a performance or whatever. And we've all seen amateur productions, be it panto or whatever, where you go, that was unbelievable. And equally, we've seen professional productions where we've gone, I want my money back, sort of thing. Yeah. And it's not often, thankfully.
Yes.
But it does happen. And I think you have to, I think of all the disciplines within perhaps theatre, I think maybe panto is the one where it can be closest between the two. I think quite often, and we're going to go down the controversy route again, but pantomime obviously is a big business, a big money maker, and you do end up in the big venues, particularly with names. You bring the names in because they sell tickets. Does that mean they are the best possible performer that could have played that role and that someone wouldn't have done it better? Not at all. We know that. But equally, we're not naive. We understand that it is a business. It does need to make money, and someone who's from Love Island is going to generate more interest than Sam from Hampshire, because I don't have that following. Does it mean they're a better performer?
I don't know, you've got a decent following. But
well, I don't have zero following, granted. Equally, I've not been on Love Island, nor will I be going on Love Island, just to put that out there, which I think most people, particularly those watching on YouTube, will be glad of. Anyway, we've gone down a rabbit hole here. I'm going to dig myself out pretty quickly. No, you're absolutely right. There are different levels to performance. You have amateur, you have professional, but I think the blend in panto and certainly the level of enjoyment, I think particularly because panto is mainly aimed at children, those kids aren't going to know, oh, well, that person's been at RADA, so their training is better than Joe Bloggs, who works in the bakery and is doing it because he likes a bit of a laugh as well. As long as they enjoy it, what does that matter? And I'm assuming, and you can probably clarify, that you see quite a lot of pantomime, so you're able to make that comparison quite regularly.
Yes, I do see one or two, much to my wife's dismay. Because she's not a huge panto fan, it has to be said. She will come and see them with me, especially if I'm in them, she'll come and see it. But she's not a huge panto fan. I do get quite a bit of stick for that, and does get me into trouble quite a bit. Because, of course, they're mostly, well, I say mostly, a lot of it happens in the lead up to Christmas, which is a bad time of year for everybody to be sort of going off and flying up and down the country. But of course, one of the topics we cover a lot in the magazine is pantos are not just Christmas anymore. I mean, they never used to be anyway, originally. They were always post-Christmas, leading up to Easter or potentially later. And they sort of moved, for whatever reason, to just in the run up to Christmas, and now some run over Christmas. But it's like, one of the first interviews we did was with Mama G, who was on Britain's Got Talent with Dame Nation. And, we spoke nothing about panto basically being all year round. And I said, there's a lot of productions now at Easter, summer, October. You got Butlins do it in the summer at the holiday camps, fantastic productions, really, when you think.
Really good productions,
they are,
Yeah.
And the showcase they did at the Panto Awards, was phenomenal, really. So, there's lots to talk about there.
Do you think, I mean, because panto really, I mean, it is happening all the time, and because it is great entertainment, it is, I mean, it was seen and is maybe now so much not seen as just a Christmas thing. It is. Do you think it's being taken more seriously? I mean, I think so. Over the more recent years, bigger companies become involved, more people become involved, dedicated publications such as yourselves, because I think people are interested in it. Not only because they can see it Easter, summer, Christmas, but I think they're interested in because I think performers, production companies are taking it more seriously. There's a lot of money to be made, but not only that, I think people have gone, look, this is a serious art form. This is like being a good farceur. You could be a good panto performer. You could be a good dramatic actor. What do you think of?
That's a very interesting question, actually, and it's one that comes up a lot in the discussion with interviews in the magazine. I think it's definitely being taken a lot more seriously, which is great. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. Historically, panto was always seen as the poor relation, if you like, of theatre. It never used to be. It sort of drifted that way. And then, it really, I'm doing pantomime, really. But I think it is now starting to get some, finally, and at long last get some real ground. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do properly and do well. It's actually very, very. I know I'm speaking to the converted here, but it's very difficult to do well.
Yeah.
You can't just be a comic and then be good in panto. You've got to be a certain type of comic to make it work. Same with dames, which is another topic we can talk about, which can get controversial. But there's all different types of dame, but it's not just a case of putting on a frock, turning up, and being rude or picking on people. There's a definite art to it, and it is really, really difficult. I mean, the fact that we had Sir-Ian McKellen turn up at the UK Panto Awards, pointing case, he didn't have to. Yes, he was accepting the award, but he was opening the following day in Bristol. He didn't have to go, but he took the time out, did it. Fair play, because he's not a spring chicken. I'm sure he would kill me for saying that. But so the fact you've got people like that actually putting in the effort, and the fact we have the awards and the Pantomime Association, it is definitely starting to be taken more serious, I think. And as you say, it's a multi-million-pound industry.
Absolutely.
All year round, never stops, which, we've got Imagine Theatre 20 minutes up the road, and I very nearly went to work for them at one point. And my wife said, well, what do you do the rest of the year? They only work for 3 months of the year. I thought, no.
Yeah.
So, in issue 1, we Imagine were fantastic. They allowed us in, and we had a really good chat. I've known Steve for many years, but Steve Bowden, and we talked about what they do from January to November, and then at the end of the day, when the panto is on in November, they've already announced what they're doing next year. They've got the cast, some of the cast picked. They're starting to look at writing it. It's 18 months plus sometimes for that big one. So it's definitely getting more serious, which is good, and it should be taken seriously. There's a lot to it.
So speaking of sort of build up and the time taken, people not familiar with the magazine, and they should be, please go out and buy it now. But not only have you taken upon yourself to create this magazine based on panto, it's not a once a year thing like most people assume panto to be.
No.
So you're producing, it's 4 issues per year, isn't it, at the moment?
Yes, every quarter.
What's involved in sort of the lead up and the preparation, and are you overlapping as well? So you've just released the most recent, the 4th edition, which is the summer, isn't it?
Yeah.
At what point have you started looking at the next one? Had that already started before the previous one was out? How does that sort of run for you?
Yeah, now we've got it running. Yes, as well, even as issue 3 was coming out, I was thinking of issue 4, 5, and 6, and now issue 4's come out. I'm desperately trying to get finalised who's coming in for number 5 and number 6, because if we have like 10 articles to write, that's potentially 10 people I've got to find who are willing to sit down, spare me a couple of hours, and then obviously we have to write it all up, send it backwards and forwards, chase down photographs, which can be the biggest challenge. Some people provide us personal photographs, which is fine, but quite often we're having to chase down producers or theatres to try and get photographs that we're okay to use, which can be quite challenging sometimes. So although issue 4 came out, I should know, it's end of June. Last week in June. This is what it's like. I've got the next one's due out in September. I have to have by the end of August everything ready to go to the printers. So that 2 months, it sounds a long time, but if I haven't already started, I'm up till 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get it finished into the printers, because we're not a big team. So it's hard work. So we are planning ahead. So I have you two guys jotted down for future articles. So I should be badgering you very soon.
We'll be very, very happy to drop in and talk panto. Now, you mentioned, and you said I'm going to get controversial, which is something I love to do. You mentioned dames. Now I haven't done panto for a couple of years because I've gone down another avenue, but I've been a dame for many a long year, and prior to that, I played villain. I love doing dame. I know you played dame.
Yes.
What is it about playing? Because we've had a couple of dames on. We had the lovely Jamie Riding on, who's one of the youngest and fabulous dame. I worked with some very old school dames, and I mean every one of them sort of goes, oh, I don't know what it is, but there is just something. I don't know it's for me. You do the rehearsals, and I've rehearsed and I've directed a bit as well. And directing whilst playing dame was one of the most stupid things I've ever done, but it's very exciting because it's got like, I mean, thankfully I had a very good choreographer and assistant director who was able to go, right, you just get up there and do your stuff. I'll tell everybody else what to do because you've got to concentrate on you. And it is a huge role to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know about you, but there becomes a moment that Sarah the cook, suddenly you've been rehearsing for, you know, very often not very long. And then you get the wig, the frock on, and you go, and then the performance happens. You really don't quite know what's going to happen until you put the frock on for some strange reason, even though you may have played her before. I don't know. There is something special happens to a fella playing a dame. So I don't know what it is. What's your feeling about that, Simon?
It's a very good question because I'm naturally a very quiet person. You know, my wife's forever having a go at me. We'll go somewhere, and if I don't know people, I'll sit in the corner and, you know, quite merrily talk to myself or a glass of wine. But you put me on a stage in front of a couple of thousand people that I've never met, in a wig and a frock, and I'll talk for hours, which is bizarre. But as you say, it's not until you get everything in place, and especially for me, the audience there, I can't explain it. It's bizarre. I mean, I hate the opening spot. I've done it a couple of times, and that first interaction, because it's so alien to me as a person, even though I'm in character, until I've got over that bit, I'm like, ah. But so I've done that, I'm fine. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I love the interaction. As I say, I'm really quiet, and I have to force myself to talk, which seems daft seeing as I interview people every day of the week. But I have to force myself to talk to people. So to go on and be interacting with the audience, you know, picking on a bloke who just happens to have a dodgy jumper on, or a lady who's got a big hairdo and that sort of thing, you know, it just happens. I can't explain it. No. It's really bizarre, really bizarre. But,
I think for me, I mean, dames are changing as well, because there was, I mean, one of my very favourite with dames was Les Dawson. I mean, I think it was brilliant because it was just a red nose, the eyes on, and it was just Les would walk out there, and it's Les Dawson in a frock, and he had complete control over the audience. But there was something with just being in the frock and the wig gave him license to go elsewhere. I mean, he'd always done it with those wonderful female characters that he created, and that knowledge of women as well. He had a great. I think it's the same with Paul O'Grady, who was a different style of dame, but he knew women, and I think men that know and love women can tap into something. That's a little theory of mine. But that wig and the frock gives you license to go such a long way. But the dames are being played in quite a different way now. I mean, there's, you know, I still think a fella in a frock works for me. That's my style of dame, you know. I mean, I'm 5'6". I'm not the biggest fella in the world, but when I come on the stage, I'm 10 foot tall because I'm loud, I'm brash, and I go for it like a steam train. That's my style. But yeah, it's Are they changing? Do you think times have made them different?
Well, I mean, again, this is something we discussed a lot in the magazine, because obviously I've spoken to quite a few dames over time, but also because we're following the Staffordshire University's degree in contemporary pantomime practice, the new masters they're doing this year. We've been following that, and they're looking really deeply. It's quite scary how deep it gets, really, how serious it gets into, particularly, I know it's been a big topic this last year with cultural appropriation and representation and all that sort of thing. And one topic that came up in the last discussion was about dames, and how, despite, in some ways, you know, despite the fact that, if you like, and it's probably not the best term to use, but cross-dressing, or, you know, men expressing themselves as like Grayson Perry, you know, he's got an alter ego as a female, it's becoming more and more acceptable. But for some reason within panto world, it's still being questioned, should we have a man playing the dame? And it's like, what's the problem? That is part of the joke to me. You know, it is a bloke, and you get both sides of it then. You get the rough, you get the gruff, but you can also get the compassionate and then that side of it. And of course, like recently, there's been a big trend towards drag queens playing dames. Some do it very well. In my personal opinion, some don't necessarily cross over so very well, because they can be very, very different. You know, I mean, you've got some drag queens where it's definitely not something you would show to children, but then there's a lot of drag queens who, you know, they can quite happily mould into that dame role, and it works quite well. So that, you know, that whole discussion, you know, gets very interesting. But yeah, as you say, once you're in that dame role, it does give you a lot of license. I mean, my dame tends to be a cross between, I put it, a cross between Daniel LaRue and Dame Hilda Brackett. So it's oddball, but there we go.
It's covering a lot of bases there. I mean, in the recent edition, the summer 2023 one, you've got the wonderful Peter Duncan, who I think is a fabulous dame, and he also during lockdown did those wonderful online pantomimes, which I think was just a fantastic thing to do. I mean, he's lovely, but he also did the play Dame as well, which I didn't see. I would have loved to have seen that.
Yes,
but
yeah, no, that's a very interesting. I mean, that looks more at the, if you like, I was going to say the dark side of being a dame, but that's not quite right. It's more the how you find a lot with comics, particularly how the comedy side of it on stage and playing the dame or the comic is the escape from the reality of their life, which is quite often quite lonely or miserable. And yeah, talking to you about that was really interesting. I say I didn't see it myself either, but yeah, talking to you about it and finding out more about it, it's actually, you know, you think, oh, play about a dame, it'll be light and frothy, but it's anything but. You know, it is quite dark, but they did some good stuff with that, and I know he's hoping to make a film of it going forward. I mean, talking to Peter was amazing. Obviously, I grew up with him.
He's an incredible
TV, but he's so down to earth, and he was so willing to talk about anything panto, and he's got such a rich history as well, right from his parents back in the day, right through to now him being in that same position, being a producer and writer, director, and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a really interesting article to do that one. Yeah, we could have talked to him for hours.
It does just bring it down to where then kind of go. I mean, we talk about celebrity and panto, and the normal jump to conclusion would be, oh, well, they go in, it's something you do at Christmas, and it's something against the norm. But Peter Duncan is an example of how, again, it's far more than just a job you do at Christmas. It's something that people are immensely involved in. And I know, what's his name? Chris Jarvis, who obviously is a much beloved children's TV presenter. He's heavily involved in I think it's Paul, isn't it? Paul Pantomime that he helps produce, direct, and then is obviously in as well. There are some huge names that are very, very immersed in the world of pantomime, but and obviously you mentioned earlier, so Ian McKellen, and I was also lucky enough to be at Panto Awards, obviously saw each other there. You had Vernon Kay, who had never really been involved in panto before, and he spoke at length, much to the dismay of the people organising the event. He went on a little bit beyond what he probably should have done. I seem to remember him saying he didn't care that he was going on too long. He didn't use those words. Something similar.
Not quite. Yeah,
I think he'd had a drink, but anyway, he spoke so passionately about this discipline that up until then had perhaps only ever been something that he'd just taken his kids to. But all of a sudden he was in this world, and he was so, I think, in awe of the people he was working with, how committed, how involved, and how much work there is involved, that I think beyond the celebs doing the odd turn in panto to earn a Christmas paycheck or a summer paycheck, there are people who absolutely adore this discipline. And as you both said, it is not as simple as a bloke chucking on a frock or someone going up there and doing their normal comic routine. Pantomime is an enormous skill. Yeah. And sadly, there are people who end up doing it that perhaps are not suitable for it. But I guess it's not something that you know until you're in that world. And we've all seen celebs who have taken to it and been unbelievable, and those that we kind of go, your depth here. But it is that immersive world that brings everyone together, adults, children, famous, not famous, and equally, and I've gone a very long way around the houses to get to this point, but it never really used to be, but it's becoming a bit more global. And there was a particular article in your recent edition that talked about, in fact there were two that probably sit quite well here. There was one about a very remote company in Scotland who I think are basically 40-50 miles from civilization, from a proper city. but still a company putting on pantomimes and getting a really good turnout of audiences, and which is wonderful. And it just shows that you don't have to go to London, Edinburgh, Cardiff, the big players. There are lots of pantos around, and it's accessible for everyone to an extent. But equally, and I can't remember, it's not Austria, is it? Where was the...
It was... I have to look at the magazine to get the exact time, but it was somewhere in the Netherlands.
It was the Netherlands, of course.
Yeah. Lovely couple. They just got in touch with me. I don't know where they found out about it. They just got in touch with us out of the blue. And, it's surprising. We do think of pantomime as very British. But, they were a case in point. I'm not going to give too much away. Obviously, you need to buy the magazine and read the article. But
that's what
But yeah, they got in touch, and they'd seen panto over here. Basically, went back home, and it went from there. And now, it was really interesting to talk to them and find out about how they did it, why they do it, and how they go about it. And it's going down really well. Likewise, in an earlier issue, we were talking to, who was it? Brain's gone. But anyway, it'll come to me. But I'll talk about him anyway. But he did Damien Crew, he's been Bungling Rainbow. It'll come to me in a minute. Again, lovely bloke, but he's done panto in Australia. There is a company that does panto in Australia. So they do happen around the world. You occasionally get some in America. I'm not sure it goes down so well in America.
Yeah.
Slightly
sense of
different
humour
kind of
is
humour,
completely
maybe.
different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a global industry. We think of it as ours and British, but at the end of the day, it started in Italy and across there, and then came to Britain. So in the early days, but it's certainly, we like to think of it as unique to us, but no, it is a global thing, and it's something we try and highlight, as you say. So
it's a tricky translation into other senses of humor and whatever, but I think it does work. I mean, there is, everybody likes those big cliched characters that. And you can adapt to it, as you say. It came from Italy, and we adapted it to our buffoons and people we take the mickey out of, and it does work. It goes right. Everybody has somebody that they go, that's the person we're going to laugh at, but for a particular reason. Now, you've loved panto for many a long time.
Yes.
As I'm using that because I can say that. Sam Noss, Junior, sitting there, not so long, but you and I, Simon, we've loved it. What was the first panto you saw? What got you?
Gordon Bennett, first panto I saw. Blimey. Apart from the local town one that my family were involved with that I ended up joining, it would have been one at Wolverhampton Grand, because that was just up the road from us at the time. So I used to live over in Shropshire. Beautiful city. And Gordon Bennett, some of the earliest ones I remember would have been there, but as to which one it was, I can remember seeing the likes of Kerry Dupree playing an ugly sister, Geoffrey and Bungle from Rainbow in a pantomime, Grumbleweeds many times. But yeah, it would have been something at Wolverhampton. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but that would be my first big one. And I just remember as a kid being sat there thinking, oh, I want to do that.
But to say that's the one that bit you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant.
Yeah.
I saw Dick Emery and his sister in Babes in the Wood, Oxford Apollo, 1966. There you go. No, 65. Yeah, 66. Yeah. Went there on a double-decker bus with my father worked at Vauxhall all the time. It was Vauxhall you go, and about 10 or 20 double-decker buses used to go from Luton to Oxford, and we filled the place. And and I was very ill because I ate all my sandwiches on the way, had nothing for the rest of the day, and felt sick. There we go. But I remember Dick Emery and his sister. Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's amazing the things you remember, isn't it? I mean, that was 20 years before I was born. But anyway,
it was before I was born as well, I hasten to add. But yeah, not that far.
Yeah, all right. Shut up. You were doing so well. We were going to do so much, Simon, and you've just ruined it.
It was only a few years before I was born, but yeah, it was.
I'll give you that one.
I'm going to jump in quickly, change the subject before we upset him even more, and he'll storm off. He'll get
take it. So I can take it.
Simon, it's intriguing talking to you because obviously you have the background from a performance point of view.
Yeah.
You've done these other things as well, but then taking into, and I was going to say real life, not what I mean, but to your job, the publishing, to combine the two obviously means that your whole world kind of revolves around this not one subject, but you go between the two. Just throw it out there. Is there any downtime in between? Is there something that's completely different that you've taken an interest in, or you use to sort of go, right, I put the publishing one side now, I'm not looking at Panto at the moment, I have 5 minutes to myself. What do you do to get away? Or do you find
sleep?
That much love? Sleep. Oh, fair enough.
No, to be fair, we live in an old house, so we spend an awful lot of time when we're not pantoing or publishing, working on the house. But yeah, that's probably the big thing. And of course, taking my wife out for dinner, things like that.
Yeah.
So that, just in case she listens. But yeah, and taking the dog for a walk. Yeah, just generally, DIY and country walks would be the thing.
Escaping
to relax. But yeah,
brilliant.
No, you do have to have these moments. Listeners and viewers know that I'm quite into my football. I think you have to have those down moments, because then actually it enhances what you do even more.
Yeah.
Because then you can step away and then you come back and go, amazing, I'm back to what I love, what I do, what I have a passion for.
Yeah.
And taking that passion and sort of spinning it slightly. You obviously know the show. You agreed to come on, and you knew there was a caveat to that, which we always have for our guests, which is a funny story, an anecdote, or something. So, and I'm not suggesting it has to be Panto related, but I'm guessing it probably might be. But you must have some incredible stories from seeing thousands of Pantos and being involved with however many, and writing about them and interviewing people and all the things that go together to produce the magazine. Do you have a story, either prior to magazine being in involvement or whatever, that you can sort of leave our listeners and viewers with, something to give them a smile or to make their jaw drop?
Well, I was trying to think of something that would be clean enough to actually tell you about, because there's plenty of disasters that have happened that I couldn't put into public domain. But, as I'm sure we all have. But no, whether it's a funny story or not, I don't know. People will decide for themselves. But I do remember one year I was doing Aladdin. I'd been lucky enough to design it. It was at our local theatre. I was playing the genie, and it'd been going ever so well. And this particular evening, it was in the days before costumes were necessarily fireproofed, which probably gives you a clue of where I'm going.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And I had this one entrance, and the flash went off, as it does. I came on, did my big bow, and unbeknown to me and anybody else, we had two flash pots right next to each other. For those that don't know, they're like little cartridges that set off the smoke or sparkle or whatever. And unfortunately, one of the embers from the first one landed on top of the second one, and started to burn its way through the cardboard cover. Just as I bent down, it went off. So I spent the next few seconds during my speech patting myself down quickly. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. So I've had a few like that, and we set fire to the curtains once as well. That's another story. So, yeah, flash pots are not to be messed with.
No,
thankfully, they are a little bit safer these days, but yeah, things like that.
Yeah, I think we probably have a few tech experts, and yes, you use that word. I've just invented it. I'm very proud. But a few guys out there who work in the technical world of panto or theatre will be going, well, thank God stuff has got safer, but equally we'll probably have similar stories from history.
Yeah.
But we take it all was good and everything carried on.
All was good. We carried on, and it was fine, thankfully. Yeah.
Wow.
A few repairs to the costume for the next show, and off we went. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So not only did you have tech people going, "Oh my God, what's going on?" and you were having, and then you had your costumier going, "Oh, I'm going to have to fix it."
Yes.
Yeah.
A disaster across the board, but survived and gone on, and thank goodness, because we wouldn't have the multiple performances that you've done since, and equally the incredible Pantomime Magazine, which, to be fair, we've talked about, but this is the opportunity. Go on.
Yeah.
Talk about it a bit more. Just get it out there, get people buying it, tell people where they've got to go, what they've got to do.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. So it's called Pantomime, funnily enough. It literally covers everything panto, and you can only get it from our website at the moment, unfortunately, which is www.pantomag.co.uk. We have digital copies or paper copies, and you've got subscriptions for 12 months, so you don't miss an issue. And so there's literally everything in there. We give away secrets as well. We have a spot where we give away, like the first issue had a recipe for slosh and the do's and don'ts with slosh and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to cover some special effects in the next one. But yeah, have a look at it. We're also desperate for amateur companies to get in touch and talk about their work, whether you produce, direct, whether you're a group that wants to talk about your pantos. Get in touch with us. We need those stories, because funnily enough, I thought we'd have trouble getting the pros to talk to us and the amateurs would be clawing, but it's actually flipped over. The pros are quite happy to come and talk to us on the whole, but we struggle to get amateurs. So if there's anybody listening or watching that has got a story to tell, we want to know. We'll put you in there.
Brilliant. We'll put you in contact, or just get in contact directly.
Yeah.
Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure to.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for giving up your time. And yes, all the best with the next one. Everyone get the latest edition, but next one coming in September, I guess.
September, yeah, which is our anniversary one. So we're hoping that's going to be a big one.
Exciting stuff. And we will hopefully get to speak to you before then. But thank you again so much, and take care, mate.
No worries. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant.
Cheers, Simon. Take care, mate.
See you soon.
See you.
Bye-bye. So there we go. Another guest, another fantastic guest, another great episode. And I had to say, I mean, one that we, of course, I mean, I really enjoyed that simply because we both know a bit about what he was talking about. But
it's what Drewling Samantics is kind of all about, is looking at things from a different point of view, from a different perspective. We're not just actors talking about acting. We're talking about the industry that we're involved in a certain way that someone else sees from a different sort of viewpoint. And as much as Simon is a performer as well and has done panto many times, his view now is kind of looking at it from the publishing point of view, from the magazine point of view. So to hear what goes into that, to hear his background, how it's adapted and combining everything together, fascinating. Really, really great to hear that stuff. And he's doing, and it sounds weird to put it in this way, but he's doing a service that I think has been needed. As he said, there's not a lot of sort of magazine cover for the industry, or not as much as a lot of other things, particularly the panto world. And it's been hugely successful, and rightly so.
Well, it's great, isn't it? Because like you say, he's helping promote, the world of pantomime. But like we said, it is getting more and more serious, taken seriously. And also the more that people get to know about the world of pantomime, the more they will appreciate it. I don't mean that, I think, but like anything else, people get enthusiastic when they're welcomed into the world. When you close the door and go, no, we'll just do this, you don't need to know. But I mean, you're getting people like Peter Duncan and those companies to talk and to go, this is what it's about, this is why I love it. I think, it will just help, pantomime and the industry. Because I mean, also, as we've said in the past, pantomime happens once a year in the main, but that does bring a big revenue in for companies and theatres. So happening summer, Easter, again, it is revenue gathering, but it's also because there is a demand there. People love, that they love to go to a pantomime. They love to have a good time. Who doesn't? But again, I mean, Simon's work is really, it's really important. And so everyone go out and get yourself a subscription and get a copy. But for no other reason than Mr. Dunning and I will be appearing in a later edition. That's shameless self-promotion.
Whether he wants us to or not, I think at this stage, I think we've cemented that in. But, it is an important thing that he's doing, but it needs support. Like, as much as you said,
absolutely,
it is very popular, but that popularity needs to continue to be able to keep these things going. It's like the industry across the board. It needs support in many different areas, whether that's high-end West End production or little kind of community shows or whatever. This magazine, it's not competing with OK at this stage, granted, but that doesn't mean that it's not equally as important. And we just need to support everyone in the industry as much as we can, because it filters down. If you support all of us doing all the things we do, then we can keep making the material that makes you smile and keeps you going. So, and that is my my preaching done.
That's your soapbox moment. Beautifully said. I think it's a good one. It's a good one.
I borrowed the box that you stand on, which you in turn borrowed from Tom Cruise, I believe, don't you? And now before I descended to
there we go. A lovely moment, and then it's slap in the face, mate. Yeah. No, you have a point. You have a point. Yeah.
So next week, mate, we've got one more episode.
Just one normal episode, and then it's
then it's probably, I was going to say, our highlight of the season, which seems really bad fun because it's highlights episodes, but we do love going back over and looking.
I love looking back at it. Yeah.
So do join us next week for the final normal Us episode of season 8. We hope you enjoyed listening to what Simon had to say and had to tell us. I found it fascinating. I really enjoyed it.
Fascinating.
I'm sure everyone else did too. Until next week, mate. Have a good one.
Until next week, Sam.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And ladies and gents, everyone listening or watching, see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks again for watching this episode of Drewling Samantics.
Please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video.
Don't forget, we're also available as audio only. Just search Drewling Samantics in any good podcast app. And please support us on social media. All our links and handles are on screen now.
We love welcoming new followers and subscribers, so why not share with your family and friends so they can join in too? Thanks very much. See you next time.